Greetings and welcome to the podcast. I'm here with Colin and not Odds for Video Game Book Club. The rules are simple. One person picks a game and you got to beat that game in a month. Then you get to pick the next game for everyone to play once your month comes around. We're supposed to have a new person here, but they fucking dipped. This
Can't rely on anybody, dude.
Exactly. It's just us. That's all it's ever going to be because everyone else is bitch made. This game was Steelrising. Steelrising, I had high hopes for this game. It's from Spiders. Throughout this podcast, I'm going to be directly comparing it to Greedfall, which is a tremendous game by Spiders. And the reason that we played this game is because I really enjoyed Greedfall. I did not enjoy Steelrising as much. First things first, there's crashing issues on every system. I looked into it. Every system.
Wait, on console?
Every PC system spec.
Okay.
I didn't look into console because that is that's pointless to look at for me. We start with sound design for some reason. It's all right. The voices suck. Tell us about
Voices are horrible.
Tell us about the voices, dude.
Why are they English, dude? Explain.
I assume because it was cheaper, and I don't know about the voice acting rules. But at some point you didn't have to tell people like what they were doing. So maybe Marie Antoinette didn't even know that they were voice acting Marie Antoinette, which would be hilarious.
So you think they had no idea what role they were playing?
I don't think that everybody needs to know when they're voice acting. I remember there being a huge thing about it, and there was like a strike. I don't know if they fixed that to where you have to know who you're playing, like the role is specifically stated.
Maybe if it's to like hide the game, but they could have been like, you're playing a French person.
Yeah.
Didn't they think it's weird that they would speak English and then just randomly throw in a French word?
And I know nothing of the French Revolution, at least not to the extent that that this game expects me to. But looking more into it, I was wrong. I knew just as much about the French Revolution as they fucking did, because it doesn't seem to matter all that much. It's just where you're at.
Yeah, it's literally a setting.
Yeah, so it's kind of like having the American Revolution and then just having George Washington and Ben Franklin run around
And
with
fight
robots. Yeah.
It has nothing. Like, we're going to pick French Revolution as a setting, and the game's about robots.
Because I was under the impression going into this game that it would be like seeing the revolution unfold, but with robots, when in reality, it's just the robots the whole time. Everybody's boarded up in their house, like, and there's like French Parliament people there, but nobody's like fucking stoked about it. It's like, oh yeah, Jean Baptiste, yeah, finally he's in the game. Nobody gives a fuck.
Louis, dude.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Louis the 14th. He's there for 2 seconds. On to graphics. I don't give a fuck about sound design. I'm gonna be real.
Well, the graphics they look great, but you can't make it look great or the game won't work. So you have to make it look like shit.
That's honestly the worst part. Is the game is not intensive because my computer doesn't make a fucking sound when this game's on. It makes more noise booting up Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, it's a very small workload game, and then you put it to max settings, and it just refuses to function. This game will crash. My assumption is it front loads all of the textures, so put the textures on medium, even if you got a 6800 XT like me and Colin do, because this game refuses to look.
But also, the characters look horrible, no matter what setting you have on.
Yeah, they got Joker mouths.
And they have plastic skin. It does not look like skin.
Except for the robot. The robot looks good. The robot you play looks great. She's shiny.
The enemies look like shit.
Yeah, we'll get into that. There's a lot of reworks. I mean, reskins, reskinned enemies galore. And that all right. So that's something I wanted to talk about actually. Greedfall reused assets all the time. They reused the entire layout of the castles. There's 4 or 5 castles. They all look exactly the same with the exact same architecture. The only difference is what the outside looks like sometimes and what the paintings on the wall are and the color scheme. But it looks good. It looks fantastic. And there's only like a few enemies, but that doesn't matter because it's more about the world and it's always fall and it looks great. And they do great reusing assets. They don't do good reusing assets in this because it's all cobblestone and grays and browns and wood.
Color palette's horrible until that last level. Like, it's
Yeah.
all gray, and then the last level is like slightly green and gold.
It's just like it's not like it's a washed out game, but it is definitely a color scheme that is cold and dark and doesn't lend to the same charm that a warm Greedfall had with all of its yellows and oranges and greens. This is a very dark contrasting.
I guess
color
it's
scheme.
fitting for robots, I guess. Makes sense. It just doesn't look great, but it makes sense.
And like I don't know, graphically nothing really stood out to me. It's like as like whoa, that's really sick. Whereas in like in Greedfall there was like really good cutscenes where like there's a cutscene where there's a war happening between the tribal people in a field, and it's a really sick cutscene. And there's a cutscene where like this giant fucking monster comes out of a ship. It's cool. Every
Now you brought
cutscene,
up, yeah, the cutscene in this game suck. I just thought about that.
yeah, every cutscene is some fucking some white French dude that's talking politics or distressed in some way, or it's a robot just hopping around, and not a cool looking robot. Like they don't. I feel like they really phone it in on bosses, which we'll talk on it later. But
Are you talking about the Titans or like the mini bosses?
both?
Yeah, they're both bad. The mini bosses especially, but both.
Both. I think a lot of it is really just uninspired shit. Really uninspired in my opinion. Story sucks.
Yeah, I can't really. It's just like they took like a paragraph from the French Revolution Wikipedia and then replaced robots with things, and that's the whole thing. Like, I don't think it is telling anything.
This is how bad the story is. Okay, I went because I'm my brain doesn't work right. If it doesn't entice me automatically, I have to go back and actually figure out what happened after I finish the content. I go back to look up videos and read synopsises, and it's fucking slim pickings. I genuinely think everybody just tunes out this story. There's no full plot synopsis that I found online of Steelrising. Not even
That's
on the
crazy.
wikis. Yeah, it's like you go to even Wikipedia. Wikipedia is like, oh, Steelrising is a game about robots set in French Revolutionary times. It's like, okay, good plot, you know. Because if you think about it, it's really cut and dry. You're Marie Antoinette's robot, and you go to Louis XIV, and you say "fuck you." That's the whole story, and everything condensed in the between that straight line is just you running around the city as a robot fighting robots.
That synopsis, it definitely adds to my point. This is no one's favorite game. I don't think anyone's like, I love Steel Rising.
Yeah. And it has charm, just not enough. Or because like there's some investigative shit going on, and there's some like like find the shit and dungeons, and like it has a little bit of stuff that's enjoyable, but it has none of the charm of the. Also, I think this game's horribly written. Um, I'm being really rough on it, and again, just horribly written. That's the best I could say about it. Because they write this script. Now I'm going on a tangent, dude. Is this game even in French? Is there a French language pack for this game?
I don't think so.
Let's look into it, dude.
I honestly, this game has no charm. I think it's like like if it's like make a Dark Souls game that's not Dark Souls in the most bland way possible, and they did it.
Either way, not important. Oh, there isn't. There isn't. There is no French language support for Steelrising. What is this? Because the whole thing is just like it's like 96% English written words, and then they go sacre bleu, and in parentheses they'll be like, "Oh
Yes,
my
dude.
god."
It's so stupid.
No,
That's lazy.
yeah, no fucking French language support for the French Revolution game. What are you guys thinking? And I'm a fan. I'm a Spiders fan. I'll probably play every game that they ever like make from here on out. Because
Aren't they
Greedfall
a
was that
French
good.
company?
I don't know.
See, let's look that up. They're French.
I
They're based in Paris.
Spiders, dude. I'm sorry if you guys hear this, dude. What happened, dude?
That's fucked up.
What happened? Where are the French voice actors?
They couldn't even get. That's just crazy. They have English voice actors speaking fake French while being in France.
Maybe I'm misinformed. Maybe because it was a quick search. If there is French language support and I just did bad research off the fly, dude, I will put in the pinned comment that there's French language support. But as of right now, I'm just flabbergasted.
That's actually crazy. Because I wasn't sure, but I was like, I definitely think they are French. And that's even worse.
Yeah, I'm a Spiders fan. That's obscene. That's absolutely obscene. But no, the story sucks, and the main reason the story sucks is not because of the overarching blandness or the poor writing or the fact that everything you do is pointless. It's that when they go to behead Louis the 14th, it doesn't show his head getting chopped off, and that infuriated me.
Yeah, that was one of the worst endings I've seen in a while.
It's bad. It's really bad. Um, but there's interesting parts throughout. There's a doctor that you like do an autopsy on, a scientist or whatever.
That's all side shit, though.
It's side shit. There are things to be done in this game if you want to do them. There's a bunch of codexes and notes for
Files.
you to pick up and files. It's less like this game has shit in it if it interests you.
But, dude, even the files are fucked because you pick them up and then you realize that it's like a 30-page long scrolling thing
Yeah.
in the smallest font possible.
And double fuck the files, because if there's a file while you're in combat and you click on it because you think it's an item, even though things get muddy in combat, you're just clicking everything. So if you click on a file, you have to hold the button to exit out of the file while you're in combat. And because it's Dark Souls, you gotta fucking... It just creates a hassle. You're stuck in a file when you should be fighting. But yeah, from the moment that Marie Antoinette told me to leave and go find Louis the 14th to finding Louis the 14th, I remember almost nothing of the story. Literally nothing.
I tried to get into it, but it's just like, you can't. It's just not interesting. And it also feels like nothing's happening other than you running around,
Yeah, and you form like a little you get a little clubhouse, a rebellious like clubhouse, and it doesn't feel like a clubhouse. It just feels like a where the people are. It's like, oh, I gotta go here. Um, what else? There's like this cool idea where you like imprison the people in coffins, and you need to like crack a core to open them and shit like that. Like, it's a cool idea because they're in like a cryogenic sleep. It doesn't fully like explore that though. It doesn't go cooler into it. It just like,
And that might be in the files, but that's something that shouldn't be in that shit. Like that, if that's going to be in the game, that should be part of the main story.
yeah.
Or they explain that, and they never do. So
And yeah, just overall the characters, I just couldn't get into any of the
the
characters.
only reason you remember the characters too is because they're historical figures. If that person's name was like Jim, you wouldn't fucking remember it.
No, not at all. And even the main character, I guess she's a robot, but they kind of do the Detroit Become Human thing where the robot is actually the most lifeful person in the entire game. Like she is the only one that has expressions aside from, Marie Antoinette yelling, or fucking the dudes being upset that their corruption's gonna be found out or some shit, or like she's the only one that has any sort of decency where she's like, no, we're gonna do this or some shit like that. And she gets a little sassy, but because it's not a talking game on your end and you're just hearing people dump exposition on you about historical shit that doesn't exist, historical fan fiction. So it's like, it's not for the history people, and it's not for the character development people either. I don't really know what
Like, it doesn't go
for.
sci-fi enough,
Yeah.
It's just robots.
And let's talk about how they get rid of the robots, dude. Because honestly,
Oh, and the story. It's the worst ending, dude. The robots die from COVID.
so the reason I've been saying that it doesn't matter what you do in this entire game is because if the people just stayed up bordered in their houses, like when you started your journey and when you ended your journey, by the way, people are boarded up in their houses the whole time. And if you didn't exist, all right, nothing would have changed because the robots feed off human life force energy, and they all fucking die in 2 weeks anyway. So you're fighting all these robots, including you, that are just gonna die anyway. In 2 weeks, not even a substantial amount of time. In 2 weeks, at most, he said.
They kind of try to fix it because they're like, oh, because the guy ran away that was giving them commands. But that really doesn't fix the whole, yeah, if no one goes outside for 2 weeks, they'll just rust away. Very anticlimactic.
It just seemed like shoehorned in, too. It's like, oh, what about the robots? Well, fuck them. Like,
Because you're basically like Superman and they kill you off at the end. So, like, how do we fix the rest of the problems? Oh, it just goes away.
gameplay is the best portion.
The worst portion.
I think the gameplay was really solid right up until I figured out how good grenades were.
No. The gameplay is horrendous.
Now we're switching roles here, dude. Now
No.
be quiet and you can.
If Dark Souls is like, I'm never playing Dark Souls game, dude. That shit was horrible. What? There's no reason to fight basic enemies. No one can give me a single reason why you fight the normal enemies. They give you a broken gun 1 hour, not even an hour into the game, that lets you cheese everything. And then you can buy grenades that lets you kill the final boss in 30 seconds.
Any boss.
Yeah. And then you get into the enemies. All the enemies suck.
Yeah. So this game has 6 enemies. Uh, you got your basic fucking shitty ass fodder enemies. You got your shooty enemies. Um,
Dog.
you got your dog. You got your log thrower. You got your spinny chain guy, and you got the variants of the bosses. That's it. Oh, and a spear guy. There's 7 enemies, and across
Dude, and
those
the
yeah,
mini bosses are so bad because they have that blue aura on them. You can't even see anything.
yeah, it's foggy and it's fucking gross and it's weird. And those ended up being the best enemies later down the line, not because of the like what they are and the only reason that they're good is because you know that there's a little save point coming up. Cuz
Yeah, like
this
you're progressing.
yeah. Oh, speaking of progression, dude. Horrid,
Dude.
absolutely grotesque compass, dude. It doesn't fucking work. If
And
you're,
I
dude,
what's crazy is like so you can like sell the compass, like you never have to have the compass.
I didn't for the longest time.
And I feel like it's an excuse to be like, yeah, it's like hardcore to play without this thing. It's like you're basically playing without it anyway because it's fucking useless.
Yeah, because up until I got the second piece of the puzzle, the second, what do you call it? How do you explain it? The ability, I guess. There's 3 abilities that break up the game into 3 parts, 5 parts if you want to do it right. Um, so I got the second ability, and that's when I started using the compass because it got to the point where I was backtracking to places that are just mazes, like,
Yeah.
and you look at the map, and the map is as bad as the compass is. The map is worse.
There's a map.
Yeah, but it doesn't show you the layout or architecture of the city. It's just a map of like all of France.
Are you talking about like the fast travel map?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's pointless.
And there's no mini map up in the corner. Like,
No.
it's just bad. Like, the game wants you to get lost. And I enjoyed getting lost for a little bit. Um, but then, like, you go to Luxembourg or any of the other places, and they all look the fucking same.
Yeah, Burnt City.
Yeah, it looks like, what was that vampire BR that we played?
Oh, Vampire the Masquerade. Some
Yeah, Blood Hunt. It all looked
Blood
like
Hunt.
Blood
Yeah.
Hunt. Um, and for being in the setting of a revolution, it is a dead looking city, dude. And I get that it's supposed to look like that, but I didn't see a human outside of French like Parliament
Dude, they're all
at all.
inside. You can see their subtitles come out of the door.
Yeah, and there is exactly one side quest that I saw from an inside the house human person, and it was to get them some water. One side quest. So the rest of the game, I'm like, I'm doing the old game fuck the wall to see if I could click anything and talk to these humans that I hear their subtitles of, and there's none that I found otherwise.
You
And
were
maybe there's
mashing for nothings.
yeah, and I didn't do New Game Plus. I only did one playthrough because that's how this shit works. You get to credits and it's over.
I mean, in this game, it is not worth playing again.
And, well, I was looking on the fucking Reddit and people are playing it 4 to 5 times, and I'm like, dude, why? To go faster?
Yeah, see, I just don't understand. Like, why invest that much time into this? Unless this is the only game you own. And then I just feel bad for you.
It is actually. It would make a great one of those games. One of the classic. Like, this is the game that I
You're
got for
14.
Christmas. I'm 14. I'm not getting anything for like 2 months. I'll play the shit out of this. This'll eat up some hours if you want it to. and it's serviceable. It is a serviceable game. It's
Yeah,
not.
but if you have options,
Yeah,
don't pick this shit.
because I really think the problem is that not that it's incompetent in any sort of way aside from performance. I think it's that it doesn't stand out in any
It's just
specific type
generic
of
as
way.
hell. Yeah.
Because I mean, maybe we've been spoiled a lot, but I mean, this is just like, oh, you go back in time into an important event in history. Well, that's Assassin's Creed. It's a gigantic franchise. And then it's like, oh, well, the combat system's crazy. It's actually going off of a weapon-based system where you lose your progress along the way, but you get to keep your items and their stamina. It's like, oh, well, there's Dark Souls. It's a massive franchise. Okay,
Even
but
as like a Dark Souls clone, like there's so many. Like there's no way this one's even like top 5 out of all of them.
yeah, and people said that Greedfall was a Souls-like, and I had an aversion to that statement because I'm not a huge fan of the Souls games, but I am a huge fan of Greedfall. Um, and this game pushes towards Souls a lot more, in my opinion. It's just a feel of it, because in Greedfall, when you're fighting an enemy, it feels different, and the people that have played both games can probably articulate it better than I can, but something just feels different, and there's all of the hits are weightier.
And
Whereas
I mean,
in
this
this,
game literally has the souls too, like the whole currency leveling up thing. Lose all of them if you die.
yeah, and then you go back to them, you get them all back.
Yeah.
But then you fall into a lake because for some reason you can't swim and you'll die if your fucking body touches water.
Or you die and the game crashes and that counts as dying twice, so you lose them.
Yeah, splendid. And I don't know. It seemed like where in other games, I'm getting weapons to do the to play how I want to make the game feel how I want it to. In this game, it is strictly getting weapons, at least your first time around. It's getting weapons to serve a purpose. Because I spec'd in strength. So the spear was the obvious choice. It gave you the longest range. It gave you the most wiggle room to work with. It had a semi-shotgun projectile type. And I loved the discus chain. The chain was I really enjoyed using the chain.
Yeah, that's what I used.
But unfortunately, because it's a Souls game, and because you're highly incentivized to use parries, because you get to steal a whole extra attack sequence, I couldn't use the chain anymore, and I couldn't use the spear anymore either, for that matter. So I had to use my full spec strength build and put it to a hybrid dex build just because there's no strength weapon that had both range and effective parry that I needed. Because otherwise the game would just be fucking ridiculous. That being said, looking back on it, you don't need to spec into any weapon. What you need to do is you need to buy grenades and buy grenades.
And then run past every enemy.
And buy
There's
grenades.
no reason to fight.
I think as soon as you unlock the first explosive grenade, you can sell every single item and never level up anything and still beat the game easily.
Yeah, because you can literally... Because I think I only fought a couple enemies in a couple spots, but for the most part, I was just running to checkpoint to checkpoint. It just seemed like it made way more sense.
Yeah, and to say grenades break the game is putting it as lightly as possible. Grenades make the game a completely different experience altogether. This is a game that throws everything by the wayside, and if you think that the story doesn't matter, the combat really doesn't fucking matter. Because grenades are cheap as fuck, way cheaper than leveling up, because for some reason, leveling up your character on one end of the spectrum, like say I put 15 points into strength and I want to put 1 point into dex, it'll cost an exorbitant amount of money to put that 1 point into dex because I've put so many in strength. So when you start leveling up, it starts out low and gets progressively higher cost no matter how you put it around in the pool of stats that you can increase. So it doesn't cost the same amount as leveling strength up to 2 as it does dex to 2 when I have 14 points into strength, and that really stifles creativity.
It's really dumb.
Because you put 5 points into something and you're like, oh man, I'm losing value if I put 1 point into this for what it would be to put another point into that. I might as well just fucking, it's opportunity cost, you know? And then it's
And then
like,
you can just buy grenades, so fuck it.
and then you just buy grenades. The amount of grenades I could have bought with all of the leveling up that I did. Like, there's a module system where you got to find keys to unlock the modules, and then you got to buy the modules, and you got to make the modules fit into the keys, and they do extra cool shit and stat bonuses and cooldown reduction. None of that fucking matters as long as you have an explosive grenade in your pocket.
And what's crazy, because, like, I guess someone could argue that's like, oh, they did that so, like, you know, there's, like, an easy mode, you know? But the game has an easy mode in that assist mode thing, because you can, like, turn the difficulty down for everything. So the grenades are there because they're there. I have no idea why. They're fucked up.
And I think it was just an oversight, and because I'm glad they're there. I'm glad they're there because it is so much time efficient to throw grenades at shit. Honestly, any type of grenades. You could throw your concussion grenades at them and then just do power attacks because 2 concussion grenades knock an enemy down. Or frost grenades. They don't do as much, but then you're getting damage and concussion. Or freeze.
I feel like
the same
they're
thing.
almost like a cop out from like a design. Like this game kind of sucks. Let's just add these to make it suck less. But I feel like if you don't use those, the game would just be horrendous.
And like, it's not that the bosses pose too much of a challenge. They pose too much of a tedious challenge.
Yeah. And they're just not cool. They don't do cool things. They don't look cool.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this is a mechanical horse boss.
And it runs in circles and hits you. That's all it does.
I don't know. This game is tremendous in its first fourth. In its first fourth, I was really engaged. I was really excited. I was ready to find new parts of the world. I was going to 100% this game.
That's crazy.
Because I was like, okay, good. It felt good to make progress. But then you get in there a little bit, you know, and I beat the second the second ability, the grappling hook ability boss. I beat that boss naturally. And not only naturally, I beat it under a handicap. I beat it with a weapon that I wasn't spec'd into. And I sat there for hours doing it, and I beat it. And then I threw grenades the rest of the game. Because why would I do that again? I got what the combat wanted to offer. And the health bars are too big to not throw grenades at people.
Especially with the basic enemies, I feel like they don't even make them cool. They're just like, we're just going to send 4 of them at you. And at that point, it's just like I'm not fighting 4 annoying-ass enemies at once. Like, because the game does not feel good fighting multiple enemies at all.
No. Because it's like it's kind of like Absolver, where it's like, it's a 1v1 game, you know?
Especially because, yeah, a lot of weapons don't have block or parry. So you can only dodge.
And there's like cool portions of the combat, because you get this dash ability, and if you dash into somebody, you like Wario side B them and fucking bounce off of them and continue the combo and stuff, and that's cool. But like,
I knew you could do that, and I never did it once.
And I think the best part about the systems that they have in place for this game are the stamina system. The stamina system running off of an overheat and then extra cool type of thing, allowing you to do like a quick time event, little um, replenish. I think that's really cool, not only from lore standpoint, but from design standpoint and fun standpoint. So you, it runs off of your like core or whatever, and the reason you run out of stamina is because your core overheats. But you could pop like a frost grenade inside of you basically and cool down your core quickly. And you press a button while the thing rolls down, and you can get it. You could get it really good, and replenish your full bar. But if you do it too early, it doesn't proc, and if you do it too late, you're only doing half the stamina. But if you do it twice in a row or 3 times in a row, depending on your abilities that you've spec'd into, you actually over freeze yourself and you become frozen. So it's a good push pull, and it's fun to crack your stamina and do a whole other loop because you get essentially 2 stamina bars now. And I think that if that system was in a better game, I'd like it a lot more.
It might be the only unique thing in this game.
Yeah, I think that was done tremendously, and credit where credit is due. I think that was far and away the best part of the combat system is the stamina cracking. The enemies suck. Reskins galore. It's like, you want a fire version of that enemy you fought, or do you want the electric version, or do you want the frost version? What do you want? And fire level sucks because everything explodes. You get any of the enemies down on the fire level, and they just explode.
Divinity, dude.
Yeah, shout out to Divinity. Love that game. Woo.
I hate getting shot in this game too. Just like cross map thing shoots you.
Yeah, because you feel I felt stupid when I got shot, dude, because the bullets are so slow.
Well, they just aggro for so far that it's just like you really don't think they're gonna still be shooting, and they are.
Oh, this is one of those games where it gives you like cool items at the very, 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 very end. Because Colin was talking about how there was only the ice gun, and I was like, yeah, no, it's only the ice gun. Like, that's the only gun. And then, bam, like 10 minutes before I beat the game, there's a fire gun in a random chest. So that was nonsense.
There has to be more guns.
Maybe there's a gun for each thing. Like, maybe there's an electric gun. Nothing felt like it mattered on the armor side at all. Like, whatsoever. There's no augments to armor, like sockets or gems or any of that, or for weapons for that matter. It's all done through the upgrade system. A real bummer is that you could only upgrade your weapons to 5. I think that's a big reason why grenades are so powerful, because in other games like this, you can upgrade your level, your weapon to 10 or even higher. And then you choose whether to upgrade your weapon or upgrade your character. I think that upgrading your shit up to 5 and then not being able to anymore is a huge mistake. Huge, huge mistake.
The upgrading's kind of lame. Like, it just gets it stronger, right?
Yeah, it gets stronger, and not necessarily different properties, but different scaling. Like, it'll go from B scaling to A scaling in strength. But it'd be cool to like upgrade the spear or the discus chain, and it'd be like, oh, this is now a SSS plus rank on your scaling with strength,
Yeah, it'd be cool if it unlocked new like moves and shit too.
Yeah, or
like the ability to block with it if you level it up enough.
Yeah, give me a discus chain parry, because I know it might not make sense, but I mean, look at what we're working with here. Not a lot is making sense out here.
Or make it so you could customize, like, oh, I kind of want this ability on it,
Yeah.
Like an augment system. would have been way better.
And if this was like a super duper passion project of like, ah, man, it's really cool and I want it done, and somebody fought hard for this, it's a serviceable game with a decent idea. It just didn't hit any marks for me at all. At
Yeah, it's
all.
very mediocre, which is kind of like what the reviews said about it too. It's not bad. I can't say it's like a horrible game because it's fine. It's just it's really Wolfenstein 2.0 for me.
Nah, because I think the front half really works out. And it doesn't bog you down with story that you can't like just you can forego a lot of the story because I think half of all the cutscenes that I watched are from picking stuff off the ground because it'll be like you walk over here and
It's
that'll
like a
be
memory thing. Yeah, you
yeah
have like a flashback.
a little flashback.
See, but I think you think the first half is better because you played the first half a month ago.
Yeah, but well,
And
it's
I
also
think
the
it might be
introduction.
nostalgia.
Nostalgia for a month ago.
That can happen. I mean, it was a long time. It's been a long month.
I just chalk it up to I I was finding new shit.
See, I started out bad because that first boss before you get the gun killed me quite a few times, and I was
Oh
having a
no.
bad time.
See, I was worried about that up until like the cheese was full and clear cuz I was like, yo, I hope this game isn't too much of a pain in the ass cuz it started out being a huge pain in the ass.
Yeah, and then they give you that gun, and it's like, oh, okay. And then you get grenades, and it's like you don't have to play the game normal anymore.
No. And not having to fight the enemies like I prefer it over having to, but give me a reason to. And in a lot of games, there's reasons to do shit, and there's no reason to do anything in this game aside
Right, and
from
you don't even need like a reason. It just needs to be like where it's fun enough to do, and it's also it doesn't take so long that you're like this is a waste of time. But it's both unfun and it takes too long to kill basic enemies, so you just run past them because there's no point.
and I'm like they have like a dual weapon system where you could have two weapons equipped, and I'm like, oh, sick. Maybe there'll be like some dual weapon combos. No, because the time to switch weapons is fucking obscene. Like if
That was brutal on a controller too because I had to claw so I could keep moving because switching the weapon was D-pad up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's something we could talk about. What was inconvenient about using the controller? Because I used the what do you call it? The keyboard. So we could talk about all of that.
Just the weapon switch and R1 or right bumper being attack was really fucking awkward.
Gotcha.
And I kept jumping because jump is A and dodge is B, and I kept jumping when I meant to dodge.
Yeah. I had to switch it a couple of times. Eventually I put dodge onto my mouse.
But yeah, just the menuing the items and weapon it was hard because you can't move with your left thumb and use the D-pad. So
Yeah.
in this game you need to like strafe while selecting shit or you're gonna die.
Yeah, switching from Estus flasks to grenades and other items was a huge pain in the ass.
Yeah,
And
so on
using them.
keyboard I bet yeah because you used your mouse too, right?
Yeah, but to switch the shit, it was tab, and to use it, it was E.
What did you
So
have Q?
what did I have? Q was parry.
Mm.
And I was having I mean, I was having parry on my mouse, but I had dodge and weapon switch on my mouse. That being said, I should have unbinded weapon switch, because that is a useless fucking button. Um, and that just really, it's another missed opportunity because while I get they wanted the game to be hard and Souls-like and esque like that, I think that if you're gonna make a system where grenades are so overpowered, and think that the game community won't find that out in 2 seconds, at least let people have fun hitting stuff with weapons. Making a hot switch is not too much to ask for, and I think it would have like helped the enjoyment a lot better.
Yeah.
Because if I could do like a discus chain combo into switching into my swords and then parry with the swords and then do discus chain again, like that would and make it fluid, like I would love the gameplay a lot more, a lot more.
And if there was better, the movement wasn't great.
Oh well, let's talk about platforming. I'll give you the platform.
Yeah, the platforming sucks. The air dash is horrible. I hate that you literally have to scour the sky to find where you need to grapple. It is not intuitive.
The game's a fucking maze. And
That too.
and like not only is it a maze, it's a maze that like demands that you backtrack. It's essentially a third person fucking Castlevania, Metroidvania like, dude, because you'll go into one area and it'll be like, "Oh, you got this skill. Go to the other area back again and break the fucking green wall cuz you can't just break a green wall cuz you're a robot with a goddamn spear, axe, fan, blade, you know. You can't just do it through brute strength. You have to kick it open with a skill."
I hated the like locked doors too. It's like this door's locked, but you have to run around to the other side of the map and unlock it. But like when you forgot at the end, and it's like, oh, since you didn't unlock this one door here, you have to rerun through this whole maze to get back to the boss.
Yeah, and it makes the map smaller and more compact, which lets it have more stuff in it, which I like. But it is so infuriating because of their design choices on actual like ways to traverse through the map. Like it's not enough that there's a gate there and you're a robot that can bend rebar because that makes sense.
Only if you're a bender, though, dude.
Yeah. Hey, Futurama. No, it has to be arbitrarily locked for some reason, and you have to jump on crates right next to it and go over a break in the fence that is 2 millimeters away from the actual like gate that you're trying to get into. And it's not like you can open every gate with a key. You might have to. It was a very game like shit, very like 1990s like game type shit where it's like, oh, this door needs a lever. And it's not enough that you got the key. You also need to, instead of getting a key, you get a part to a lever, and then you click the lever. But it's the same fucking thing. You just have to click the lever.
Dude, and the worst, dude, where you have to jump through bushes. And it's like a slightly transparent bush that you have to jump. Dude, I hate that shit.
Aggravating. And there's no like... It seems like they're just there to piss you off sometimes, because not only are there gates that like that you think you can go in and it's like, ah, no, you can't do it, haha, fuck you. They'll also put like traversable parts of the map a tenth of a millimeter higher than you're able to get to unless you backtrack around to some arbitrary spot where you zip line up and then wrap around and then go through a building and then pop out the other side and go to the place that you thought you could get to in the first place.
And then they'll make the jump where it's like, oh yeah, you just barely make the jump where you grab the ledge.
And some that are like ambiguous, it's like, can I do this with an air dodge, or do I have to spend my fucking ability, the special air dodge for it? Like,
I hate that too. And then you're like, oh, I hope I don't overshoot this, but if I use the other one, you know?
Yeah. And then, you know, eventually they start having people shoot you while you do it, so.
Yeah, and then you get to fucking backtrack for 10 minutes after you fell off. And then the game has the audacity to quick save when you get shot off. So you can't even cheese it if you wanted to.
Save states. I mean, not save states. Saving points. I thought were a good design with a bad implementation. I think a lot of them are put in the wrong spots. Um, they should be right next to the boss, and some are, but some aren't.
Yeah, that felt weird that they weren't always next to a boss.
Yeah. Um, they should always be next to a dungeon. Again, some are, some aren't. Um,
And sometimes you don't checkpoint there. Like if you die, like you might not go back to the save point. Like
yeah.
sometimes it's like a random spot that it checkpointed, which I hate.
And the game has weird quick save rules where, like, if you switch out a weapon or upgrade it and like or sell stuff and you're not at a save point, it'll quick save because there's no enemies around. But if you go through a path that you kill all the enemies in and then you fall into a river, you don't quick save outside of where the enemies are because that's like an enemy trigger. So you have to go back to your last fucking what are they called? The barber chairs, you know? They're basically barber chairs and cages.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's 400 meters away. And it's just obscene. It's just absolutely fucking obscene. And I get that. I would rather there be a consequence to dying than to not to be a consequence of dying. But this is one of those games where it wants you to die for bullshit reasons. It goes out and sets upon it. It puts enemies behind doors. It puts enemies in blind spots. It'll put an enemy that synergizes well with another one to make sure that when one enemy has an opening, the other one doesn't. So you're always being attacked because of the combination. They'll put multiple shooting enemies at you from different distances so you can't get to both of them at once. So you're getting shot at for the whole time no matter what. Like, it's out to fuck you. So it wants you to buy grenades.
Grenades and gun. That's all you need.
Let me put it into like a little bit more perspective because I feel like people that haven't played this game don't fully understand. A grenade costs like $400, $475. I know it's less than $5, even if it says $5. Like
I think it's $425 for the most expensive one.
A level up costs $10,000 at endgame. So are you going to level up once, or are you going to buy 200 grenades, or 20 grenades, or fucking 50 grenades, 80 grenades?
And a grenade will do, like... You only need, like, 20 grenades to kill the final boss. I don't even think you need that many.
Yeah.
Like, every boss takes, like, maybe 15 of those grenades, and they will die. And you don't even have... It's not even hard. You lock on, and then you mash square, and it dies.
And it's like if fighting people was fun for the amount of time that you have to play the game, it would I wouldn't have used grenades so often. I think I used them for the whole back half of the game. But you can only watch yourself do the same combo like 6 or 7 times before your brain starts to melt. And there's parts of the combat system that'll never get used. There's both jumping light and heavy attacks.
Oh,
Why?
I didn't even know that. Yeah, I would never use that.
Yeah. There's an assassinate system that I used a lot. Because when
there's dash attacks too.
Yeah, there's dash attacks. All of the traversal abilities that you get can be used in combat. So you could be steezy with it. You could be whipping around and doing cool shit and making it the best that you want it to be, but you kind of have to force yourself into doing that. And not only do you have to force yourself into doing that, you have to force yourself into doing that while also managing your stamina. And I get how much I praise the stamina system beforehand. That doesn't stop you from having to manage it. It's still a manageable resource because you can't do all the things that you want to do and be able to dodge bullshit attacks.
Yeah, you literally have to make an arbitrary rule to not use the grenades. which I think is dumb. They're in the game. You should just use them.
Um, Opinions. I'll go first. Not as good as Greedfall. Not as interesting as characters. Not as interesting of a setting. Oddly enough, not as interesting as writing. Just not as interesting altogether. In Greedfall, the characters were great. I remember a lot of the characters. I remember De Sordet, Legate of the Merchant Congregation, because De Sordet, Legate of the Merchant Congregation, had a lot to do with the story. A lot to do with the people around them. A lot of dialogue to share. Whereas the main character in this game just doesn't. Things are just sort of happening around her. She is put to a task, and she's going to do that task effectively, and she might be snippy about it, and she might show a little bit of charisma here and there, but she is not a character that really like super stands out. She's not a 2B. She's not a 9S. She's not one of those extremely lovable robots that will go down in history. She's not even as good as Pascal or the main characters of Detroit Become Human, for that matter.
What about Jenny, the teenage robot?
Jenny blows this chick out of the fucking water. Like, and again, we've been spoiled in gaming with a lot of lovable robot characters. She's not even as good as Clank. Clank has more charisma from Ratchet and Clank. But that's not your task in this game. Your task is to clank metal together until you find Louis XIV. And the only way I can recommend this game is that if you're super, super duper into the idea of the French Revolution, not even the French Revolution in itself, just like the general idea. And maybe if you're like just learned about it in school, and you're like, oh man, this is a good thing to, really get me in the mood for midterms,
I don't know about that.
So yeah, my opinion is not necessarily a disappointment, but it is underwhelming.
That would be, yeah, but that's like saying play Wolfenstein if you like World War II.
No, Wolfenstein, well, something.
It's pretty similar.
Yeah, actually, yeah, Wolfenstein is World War II with robots. And maybe
just as irrelevant to World War II.
Yeah, maybe World War II gets a pass just because it's such a trope to make a game about World War II, and like maybe that's what Steelrising is trying to do with the French Revolution. It's like, oh, we could just use this setting, But I don't know, when I think French Revolution, I think of like people in the streets, and there's literally no people in the streets.
Just robots.
Just robots. It's kind of like I don't know what it's like. Game with Dishonored. It's kind of like Dishonored. It has less people in the streets than Dishonored had, because in Dishonored there's a whole plague and people don't want to be out. Well, nobody's out. It's quiet, it's dark, it's dead. It's and there's piles of dead bodies that look cool. Like it looks pretty fucking cool when you see a robot and there's just a pile of dead bodies. Like, oh shit, that robot did that, But it loses all fucking meaning.
It's the definition of mid, dude.
It is a really mid game. I think it's better than Wolfenstein, mainly because maybe it's because of public perception, because I was lied to about Wolfenstein. I wasn't lied to about this game.
That game did feel like more of a slap in the face.
But it's a fucking, this is a hold me over game. This is I want to play something from Spiders, but I don't want to wait for Greedfall 2 to come out. I'm glad this game exists. I hope it funds Greedfall 2. I hope Greedfall 2 is amazing. I have really high hopes for that game.
I'm convinced Lies of P is going to shit on this game now, though.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way it's worse than this game.
That is another reason why I wanted to play this game. There is also a wood-based robot of a game that's a Souls-like with, clunky robot animations and a dark atmosphere that's coming out, and it's gonna be way better. I can feel it. Unless the game literally explodes, because this game explodes too. Like, this game does not work properly. That's a fact. At least not on the build that I ran it on. Maybe patches in the future will fix it's not even optimization.
What was the
issues.
error what error were you getting? The error? It's like unplugged hardware.
No, I didn't get any error. It would just. Oh wait, no, I did get an error. It was always memory.
Yeah, see, mine would say hardware unplugged, and then it would crash. We got two different. The game doesn't work right.
Yeah, it doesn't work right unless you make it look like shit, and it still doesn't look bad. But when you put it up, it looks gorgeous.
Yeah, it's not impressive.
And I feel like all that time was wasted. All that time making the perfect shaders and getting the lighting right and having the all the shit that you put into it. Like, it's a beautiful painting at the end of the day that you have to look at through blurry drunk goggles. Overall score, are we going out of 10 now?
Yeah, only because it got too convoluted with the threes.
It's a 6.
I agree.
I'm not even gonna give it a 6 point anything. It's a 6 flat.
It could be worse, but I think partially the game's just not for me.
Yeah,
because I just not into the whole Dark Souls thing, but it's not the worst thing I've ever played.
Yeah.
It's mediocre.
And it's not as hardcore as Dark Souls either. It's like
No, because you can cheese it.
Yeah, and you can traverse much faster. I keep saying traverse. You can move much faster. Granted, Elden Ring gives you a horse, but like you could like sprint through this entire game. Literally, you could just dodge right through it, because if you lower your stamina, and you supplement your module to have lower freezing ability on your stamina replenish, you can dodge 3 stamina bars worth of dodging. And if you can't get to where you're going within 3 stamina bars worth of dodging, it's not worth going to. That's just how this game works. So yeah, 6.0. It is. I don't recommend it.
Yeah, I don't recommend it either.
But it is not a game that you shouldn't play if you're looking at it. If you like spiders, play this game and let it hold you over. It's playable. Next game.
Well, here's the part you're not going to like. It's a JRPG.
I like JRPGs. Is it turn-based?
Yeah. That's the part you're going to like. It's not turn-based.
See, that's a win-win for me. JRPGs are killing it.
It's Tales of the Abyss for PS2.
Tales of the Abyss. You were telling me that I gotta play a Tales game.
And now you will.
Wow.
A 40-hour one.
Not
apparently this one has the best.
Zestiria?
Well, I looked. Apparently people said this is the best one. Not gameplay-wise, but story-wise.
Story-wise, it is going
characters.
To be so rough going from Tales of Arise and Tales of Berseria and everything I know about the combat system of Tales games and going to this fucking thing.
Yeah, that's going to be... I would just start deleting all that knowledge.
Yeah. Because Tales of Arise is one of my favorite games. And if this story is killing it, I mean... Because Tales of Berseria has a really good story, too.
And apparently this is one of the best protagonists. That's what people keep saying, so...
Well, if that's the case, I'm putting it right up against Violet, because I think Violet's the best protagonist in the Tales series so far from what I've played.
From all 2 games.
From all 2 games, which is crazy because I thought for sure it was gonna be Symphonia, because I remember Symphonia getting.
See, I've played that one.
Oh, okay.
A long time ago, but I was stuck between Abyss and what's the other one? Vesperia.
Yeah.
So I heard that one's really good too.
Yeah, and if this Tales game is good, I might have to play all of them. If I can get through this one, because this is
Well, you'll
old
have
enough
to.
to where like it's the old combat system and everything.
Yeah, because apparently Vesperia has like a better combat, like a way better combat system, but we're not playing that, so
Tales of Abyss.
yeah, I'll send you files.
Looking forward to the files. Maybe I'll get some other PS2. Maybe I'll get fucking Lord of the Rings: The Third Age, dude. Um, yeah. Closing statement. Odds fucked up. He beat the game for no reason. And
Well,
now he's out of book club because he's not gonna beat Tails.
why you don't think he's gonna beat that?
No fucking shot.
He messaged me and he went, this was earlier today. He said, "Is the game going to be better than Steel Rising at least?" I said, "Depends." For me, yeah. It's also way longer though.
Well, actually, he's into visual novels right now, so maybe, just maybe.
But it's a Tales game. It's, even if you fly through, 40 hours easy, which is a long time compared to 8 hours Steel Rising that he
Sick,
barely
dude.
finished.
That means that my leisure game is getting pushed back to my pick for next month because
What do you mean?
I think there's no way I'm gonna be able to because Duelist comes out, you know,
Oh, and Yomi Hustle.
and there's Yomi Hustle, and we're
But it's
still
a
doing
long
it,
month.
yeah, and we're still doing Evil Dead stuff. So every waking moment is either gonna be working or gaming. But
Cold out, it's fine.
yeah, that's nothing new. And that's it. Brad sucks. He's out of book club and not coming to football, so that's the update on Brad.
Unless he plays Blue Dragon.
Unless he plays Blue Dragon, that's the stipulation. Shout out Blue Dragon. We played it. He's got to. It's a good game. That's my closing statement. I recommend Blue Dragon for my Steel Rising review.